Hi there everybody, and welcome tonight to the movie library. We're going to be looking at some 4Ks that I picked up today, and because the way this was done, I actually picked up there's two 4K releases that came out recently that I wanted to get two of the bigger ones that were coming out that I missed when they were in theater, and I missed them for a specific reason, especially one of them, and I'll explain that with the other 4K that I picked up. But it gives me a chance to do kind of a mini versus thing, since I'm on a bit of a versus kick here lately, and I'm hoping you guys are going to be enjoying that, because I did take to heart what one of my viewers said. They asked if I could do a versus of all the big companies out there, and I am going to do that. I'm going to do King of the Ring, do it King of the Ring style. So if you've ever seen wrestling, then you know what King of the Ring is. Where basically one person goes against another person. That whoever wins that bracket goes up against another person until you've got a king. And we're going to do it kind of that style. That's going to take a bit of time to do, and you're going to have lots of other videos in between when I'm doing that. And of course, we got the Hammer vs. Amicus coming up, but right now it's Marvel vs. DC 4K edition. Seeing Blade Runner 2049 in theater was a great cinematic experience, but it also changed my views a bit on the cinematic experience. And I'll explain that to you right now. Basically, I went in to see Blade Runner 2049, and Blade Runner 2049 was set for an IMAX screen. It was done up for IMAX, and that was a problem. There was no IMAX theater playing Blade Runner where I live at right now. So I got to see Blade Runner on a regular screen. It looked fantastic, except for one thing. I'm losing like 40%. I'm using, I think it's about 40% of the screen. I'm using a lot of the screen. So when it came time for them to do a scene in the movie that was subtitled, I wasn't seeing that. The subtitles didn't come up for me. Actually, that's kind of a lie, because you could get a little like tiny fraction of the subtitle. Not enough to even see what the letter was, but it was enough to like to really get under my skin. And I thought, how come it's formatted to fit the IMAX screen, and it's not really formatted to fit mine? I can probably have a better experience watching Blade Runner at home. I've got a 4K television. I've got the surround sound system. So as I was sitting there watching Blade Runner, I thought, you know, from now on, if it's IMAX formatted and it's not something that I really need to see in the theater, like even if it seems good, I'm going to wait a bit. Now, that being said, I'm probably not going to wait on Infinity War. We'll travel to see that one. That looks like it could be like the Empire Strikes Back of this generation. That's kind of hyping it a lot, but it looks pretty cool so far, if you're a fan of those type of films. And with that being said, that gets to my very first pickup, 4K pickup that I got in the last week. That is actually Blade Runner 2049. So for the very first time, I'm actually going to know what was said in that subtitled scene, because I made a joke about it before, saying basically they could have said "screw you, Aaron," and I wouldn't know, because my theater didn't show it. By the way, I've got a kind of a little movie review coming up as well. I did go to the theater yesterday, and I went and saw the Stranger sequel. So if you're interested in my thoughts on that, that is coming up. Blade Runner 2049, so finally picked it up. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. I have seen the movie already. I am a big fan of this film. I'm a big fan of both Blade Runner films. I do prefer the first one over the sequel, but I do think that this is a fantastic film. And much like Blade Runner, I think this is going to get more appreciated over time. And because of the way things are now, I also think it's going to be less appreciated over time as well. But Blade Runner 2049 was my very first pickup on 4K. I was actually going out to look for something else, and I'll explain that in a second, but really looking forward to diving in this one. Want to say it doesn't look like there's a ton of features. There's a few things, like this anime prologue here. There's some visionary stuff. I don't see, is there a commentary on this thing? It doesn't look like there's a commentary, though I'm kind of interested in seeing it. Seems there's any deleted scenes. I haven't really dived into it to check it out yet, so I'll give you a better review on this one once I actually watch it again. I am looking forward to rewatching this film, because I did enjoy it, and I feel like I'm going to have a better a better sense of enjoyment and a better sense of like fulfillment when I watch this film again. It's one of those films that I think is going to be, and even in the theater I thought this, that's going to improve over rewatch. So basically this is a really, in my opinion, a rewatchable film, one that's you're going to get more out of each time that you see it. And let's see if that actually holds up when I actually rewatch the film. So I got 2 more 4Ks to show you. Then we're going to do like a kind of a little versus thing, which may surprise you. And I've got The Strangers, Pray at Night movie review. So I went into town this week and I got to see Strangers, Pray at Night, the sequel to The Strangers. The original Strangers film came out 10 years ago, starred Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman. It was a very dark, bleak home invasion film. I really enjoyed it. It was creepy, it got under my skin a bit, and the Strangers were some very intensely eerie characters. They don't really kind of speak much, and when they do, it is effective. Now, when The Strangers 2 was announced, and they said that it was going to be done by somebody different, I was iffy on it. Now, there was a lot of people that went after The Strangers came out, because of the way the film ended, that really wanted to see a sequel to The Strangers. Now, I thought that, personally, at the time, that they'd gotten it right. That they'd gotten the formula pretty much down pat, and you couldn't really out-creepy what they'd done in the way that they'd done it, without either coming across as being a carbon copy of what they already did, or just falling flat completely. Now, I do think that the director of this film, the new one, kind of agreed with me on this, because he does not do what you saw in the first one. It is not the bleak, brutal home invasion film that the original Strangers was. The movie is very much in the slasher genre. It is a complete throwback to 80s slasher films. There's a ton of homages to 80s films there, and it's got a great killer soundtrack. It's one that's very near and dear to my heart, because I am, after all, the 80s kid. But how did I think it played as a sequel overall? Well, I think it was... I loved it. A lot of people really didn't get into it, didn't like it. I think a lot of people were expecting to see more of the same. And that complaint kind of holds true to a lot of like sequels. People want to have something that's comfortable and fits into what they're used to. But they also want it to go and do something a little new. Now, in the case of a lot of the 80s slasher films, for instance, like one of my favorite franchises, Friday the 13th, when it went off steered into other directions to try to do something utterly new, it kind of failed. When it stayed within the perimeters that it knew, I did actually, in my opinion, did very well. Now, this one here, I think, made the right decision. It couldn't out-creepy Strangers. I don't think it was going to be able to out-creepy the original film. Now, if they go back and if they do a third one, and they go back to kind of like the darker, creepier thing, I can see that working now. You've had that buffer time, you've had that period, but this one right now, for what it was done, for the sequel coming off, much like when you think of and I don't say it in the same up in the same echelon of a Texas Chainsaw or anything like that, but I do understand taking a movie in a slightly different direction. Now, it does stay in the whole Strangers universe. You have there's 3 Strangers. They're much more. There's much more action in this film here. There's the cast. I thought the cast was great, actually. Christina Hendricks is in this one. I'm a huge fan of hers from Mad Men, and she's gorgeous. So she's the mom in this. Actually, overall, I got to say, the entire cast was great. I love the opening to the film. I like the fact that they don't get too bloody at the beginning, but when they do go pretty good with it. It doesn't go too overboard this time around. There are some nice gore sequences for people that like that, but I don't think that it goes too far. It goes to any kind of cartoony territory. The Strangers, especially one stranger, which I'm not sure what her name is, but what I consider the mom of the group, is not seen as much as the other 2. That being said, though, she does come across creepier, and actually has, for me and for the entire theater that I was with, that one jump scare that got everybody. There's a scene where something's going to happen, And I don't, without spoiling anything, it's just, and you kind of know what's going to happen, but they extend it out to the point where you're like, okay, yeah, the jump scare's coming here. This is going to happen right now, and they don't do it, and then they don't do it, and then you're like, okay, it's going in a different direction, and then they do it. The theater jumped. It was a fun experience. Would I say that The Strangers Prey at Night is a scary movie? No, I don't think it's that scary of a movie. I don't think it's going to be anything that creeps you out or keeps you up at night. And I live in an area, basically, like in a more isolated area. So going to see The Strangers Prey at Night, it would have been really creepy. My better half is going to Morocco on Sunday, and I'm on my own here for like the next week. So I'm kind of glad it wasn't too creepy, but it was a fun time at the theater. I really enjoyed it. I recommend you check it out. If you like slasher films, if you like 80s stuff, definitely check it out, because it does have that type of feel to it. It does have a real sense of like the old school 80s stuff, and it does it right. It's not The Strangers. It's not the original film. If you go into this movie expecting the bleak darkness of the original Strangers, you're not going to really get that. Like, characters are still getting killed, and some people are upset by the conclusion of the film. I think some people think that it made a definitive end to the series. I actually think the opposite of that. I think that some things in it maybe left for me anyway. And people that have seen the movie can actually mention it. Or I'll go into spoiler territory in a little bit. I don't want to do that right now. But after I do the 4K reviews for the two other films I got, I'm going to try, remember, to talk with strangers again, and I'm going to talk in more spoilerific terms. So if you haven't seen it, watch this portion of it. Watch the other part of my video. It's going to be talking about the 4Ks, and then maybe you want to like end it there until you see The Strangers yourself, or if you want to know, we'll get into that. So I'll be right back, and 4K time, Marvel vs. DC. In the last 2 weeks, 2 big superhero movies came out, and when it comes to superhero movies coming out right now, I do like to get those in 4K. I have all the DCEU movies in 4K, and I've got a couple of the Marvel ones in 4K. The only one I don't have that's in 4K is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm waiting for that one to drop in price a bit. But obviously last week a big one came out, and I've been waiting to see it for a while. Why didn't I go see it? Well, like I mentioned earlier before, this movie was done in IMAX. Like, at least part of it was done in IMAX. So 40% of the screen I would have been missing if I had gotten to see Thor Ragnarok in the theater. I really didn't want to go pay to see Thor Ragnarok and not get the whole screen. So I said, no, I'm going to wait. When Thor Ragnarok comes out, I'm going to buy the 4K. Still, that way, I'm still supporting the movie, and I know that it's that I'm going to be able to sit back in my home, watch it, enjoy it on a really good screen, have a blast, crank the sound up, and just enjoy it. And I can watch the movie like however I want to. I can watch it in my underwear if I want to. Actually, I didn't know. I did kind of dress up, kind of like I was going out, just to add to the atmosphere of it all. But I picked up Thor Ragnarok in 4K. And I really enjoyed this movie. It's a lot of fun. This is hands down the best of all the Thor films. It's also the best Hulk film that you're going to see. Mark Ruffalo actually gets to do the voice of the Hulk in this one here. The Hulk has a lot more personality. It opened up a lot of different avenues for the character of Thor. It really, really brought a lot to the character. As you can see, much like me, Thor got his hair cut. And that's actually into totally spoiler territory here, because I'm guessing everybody's got this one and seen it by now. That's the Stan Lee cameo. Stan Lee is the one that cuts his hair. And as we know, if you've been following the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Stan Lee character that's been going through all these movies, yeah, we know he's a watcher. We know that's exactly, and he's doing these different roles, but we kind of know. But again, Thor Ragnarok, great film. Not a lot of features. I didn't get to look too much into them, but there's like a gag reel, some deleted scenes. There's an exclusive short, Team Daryl. I guess where Thor's gone, Daryl looks for a roommate. there's a few things on here. I got to check it out. I haven't checked it. The features really, really well. I think I watched like, what was it? One thing. I didn't get all through it because his mom called, getting ready for her to go to Morocco. But yeah, I do recommend it. And do I recommend the 4K? Well, I'm not going to get into the 4K portion of it yet because I got another 4K to show you. Then they're going to face off, and you'll find out. So it's going to come as no surprise that the second movie that I picked up was Justice League. So, what did I think of Justice League? Well, to be honest, guys, it's a bit of a mixed bag story-wise. The story itself, the plot was fairly decent. It was fairly generic. Now, here there's pluses and minuses to this film. I overall had a good time watching this movie. I enjoyed the film overall. Now, the villain is weak. Steppenwolf should never be like a main villain. I understand that this movie was supposed to be like originally a two-parter, much like Marvel Infinity War is going to be, and Steppenwolf was kind of like the villain that kind of introduced Darkseid, which would have been the big villain in the second part, who probably would have got shown near the end of the film, and they would have got into the big battle and all that. Unfortunately, they changed their mind and decided that they weren't going to do the second film. Now, rather than deciding to take the big villain that people would want to see, which is Darkseid, and put him into the film up against the Justice League, they went with Steppenwolf. And that's a perplexing choice. It's a really odd choice. Now, and it's a really killer because the cast is really good in Justice League. They are cast extremely well. Gal Gadot is a joy to watch as Wonder Woman, though I think like she's not given as much to do as really she should be. But it's a team piece. It's an ensemble piece, so I kind of get that. Batman, Ben Affleck does an amazing job as Batman, and I'd heard and read somewhere that some people thought it wasn't totally balanced right for his character. They just don't read enough Batman. They just read the dark stuff. Batman does have the bit of the humorous aspect to him, and he does a good job. Ben Affleck is easily, strongly becoming one of my favorite of the live action Batmans. He does a great job. Ezra Miller is more of a comic relief. Flash. I'm still a huge Grant Gustin fan, but Ezra Miller does do a great job in the movie here as well. Cyborg, he really doesn't have a lot to do. The CGI on him, it's okay. I didn't like the design of Cyborg until at the end of the film, and I know that it was supposed to be like the concept was that his it was evolving slowly, but not a huge fan. Now the biggest standout for me was Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I think he did a great job. I was not sold on him as Aquaman when I heard that he was cast. Not at all. Now Jason Momoa seems like a pretty cool guy, pretty chill dude. He does do a lot of filming in Newfoundland, and he really likes the area. So and everything that I've heard from anybody that's ever seen him is that Jason Momoa in real life, he's a cool guy. So that's all. That's awesome. And Henry Cavill. So there's no not giving away the fact that Superman is back in this film. If you did not know it, you know it when you look at the cover of it. Anybody that kept away from the spoilers and didn't know, they kind of ruined that on the cover. But I think a lot of people knew Superman was coming back. But therein lies one of the biggest problems in this film: the CGI. The CGI is really, really substandard. It's extremely bad, and people will talk to you about the uncanny valley kind of creepy look that Superman has, and you think that they're overstressing it. You think that they're overdoing the look, that because basically he had a mustache, and rather than shave off the mustache, which would be the most obvious thing to do, and if he had to go back and do like a film where he's got a mustache, the easier thing would be to just get a fake mustache. That's easy to do. Decided to let him keep the mustache and just CGI over it. And it looks horrible, guys. I mean, it looks really, really bad. And it does take you out of the film. It takes you completely out of the experience every time Henry Cavill's on the screen. And that's a real shame because this is the first time that Henry Cavill has really, really captured the spirit of Superman. So that was a huge thing for me to see. He really got it. He's got the character of Superman down. All the complaints that people had before, it was too dark, it was too brooding, it was too moody and edgy. Like he's still, he can still do that, but you can see he's coming to his own. He's really become the Superman that most people know and love. And that's a great thing. Unfortunately, because of the way that he looks, you kind of wince every time they go on his face on the screen. You want to see it shadowed. You want to see him like look away from the screen because you don't want to see that. Now, that's not just Superman that has the CGI like this. Now, all those Cyborgs CGI is considerably better. It's not exactly perfect. Steppenwolf looks like a character that came out of a PS3 God of War game, and even some of the backgrounds that are CGI'd, the coloring and the CGI, it just looks a little off. It doesn't look really great. Now, that being said, would I recommend that you pick this up, that you see this one? I really would. It is still a fun film. I did enjoy it for everything that they did with this film. For all its flaws, I still enjoyed the film, and I do want to see another Justice League movie. There's a little end credit type of sequence, and it's actually a good end credit sequence. We get like a lot now that the Marvel started with a lot of good ones, and they got into more like just comedic ones and stuff like that. Now there's two kind of end credits here. There's one where it basically shows the Flash getting ready to do a race with Superman to see who's the fastest, which is kind of cool. But there's a really cool one, and I'm going to put it out there so you guys haven't seen it. You might want to skip for the next couple seconds, but we get to see Deathstroke in this film, and at the end of it, and that is really cool. Deathstroke and Lex Luthor are meeting together on Lex Luthor's yacht. It's an awesome scene, and it looks like they're starting up for like the Legion of Doom for Justice League 2. I really hope that's where they go. I hope that they don't let this like the bumps that this one had. This one made about $750 million. I know that seems like a lot of money. I could live a lot of lifetimes on $750 million. That being said, they put a lot of money into this. They marketed this, and they messed up. But they have the cast right, with the right person. Like obviously, this had two directors. There's a bunch of things that went wrong and creative behind it, but they're on course. Wonder Woman had a solid director. It was done really well with Patty Jenkins. With a solid director, with a solid vision for the sequel, I can see Justice League 2 with this cast and maybe adding another hero. It'll be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that they do it. Hope that they don't end up like taking away and like losing. Yeah, I hate when I do that. When they lose that and they don't do another one of these. It's a fun film, guys. Definitely pick it up, check it out, and watch it. Is it a buy? I think it is. There again, not a ton of features on here, but there's a couple interesting ones again. One about the technology of the Justice League. You really shouldn't talk about that too much, considering I haven't seen that one. But Justice League: The New Heroes, Heart of Justice, about DC's iconic Trinity. I haven't watched that one, but I'm going to watch that later on tonight. But overall, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this film. I thought it was a lot of fun. So both those superhero films were really fun. Thor was, as a film, was definitely the better overall film. Was plotted better. Marvel just has it down pat with what they're doing now. Justice League had a lot of flaws, but I could see a lot more improvement with the DC Cinematic Universe. Although even with all its flaws, I can see a lot of improvement coming in the DC Universe. So, how do these rate up against each other at 4K discs, though? Let's get into that. Alright, so here we go. This is the 4K face-off, DC versus Marvel. Who's going to win? Who's going to take the crown of the two superhero films that came out this month? So, basically, here's how it goes. Story-wise, this is the best Thor that you've seen. Thor's hammer is not in this film. Thor gains a whole new power. It actually works really well. Hulk's appearance in this is fantastic. He does a great job in this. Valkyrie is again done really well. It's almost like kind of a mini Defenders group is what you kind of got going on here. And Justice League, for all its faults, for having a weak villain, having some very, very subpar CGI that is pretty inexcusable for a company that's really trying to make like high-end, big-budget films. Now, here's the biggest difference between the Marvel and DC stuff is that overall, I think that Marvel has got their effects house in order, and it looks pretty seamless. You're seeing the cinematic Marvel universe, and it's a completely, fully realized universe. This one, they're still working on it. Again, I still enjoy this movie. I think it's a fun film, But if you weren't on board for the other stuff, then some of the stuff is not going to like totally win you over. Now that being said, I do think that unfortunately, even though the CGI is bad, Henry Cavill made his best appearance as Superman in this film here. Out of all the things he's been in, out of Man of Steel, out of Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, this is his best turn as Superman. And I just really enjoyed it. I think the whole cast was great. I think that Ben Affleck really came more into his own with Batman. He wasn't the completely hateful, like murderous character that you saw in Batman vs Superman, but that didn't take his edge off. He still had a bit of an edge. He's still, he's an older Batman. He plays into that, and I like the fact that they don't kind of shy away from that. It's very well done, but Thor, it's definitely a better story. Now, 4K is a different beast altogether. Both these things look good in 4K, but although the CGI wasn't the greatest, the 4K on Justice League is fantastic. I really did enjoy the 4K on this. I like this as well, but where the biggest offender is, I really had to crank the sound on Thor up in order to get a decent cinematic sound to it. Justice League, no. Justice League, you got a good cinematic feel. It had a real feel to the sound. And let me just see what the sound is on each of these things. So, and this has got like a Dolby Atmos track. And this one here has like Justice League's got a 5. I know it's got Dolby Atmos. But Justice League just had a much better sound. It was much richer. You got to crank it a bit more. Thor seems a bit more. Sound was good. Seemed a bit more hollow. I was disappointed in that. This was the first Marvel Cinematic Universe. I like Spider-Man: Homecoming, kind of. I guess it kind of is. But like the first actual real full-fledged Marvel Cinematic Universe one that I picked up was Thor, and I was disappointed. I heard such great things about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, what a fantastic, almost like reference this type quality that it's a fantastic quality 4K. So I was a bit disappointed. I love the picture on Thor, though I did have to fumble with with my settings a bit to get the picture really good. It did seem kind of muted at first, and more so than it actually should have. I was able to fix that, but Justice League the picture was fantastic, like going right out of the gate. So for Justice League versus Thor Ragnarok, even though I really enjoyed both these films, and although I think Thor Ragnarok overall had a better plot going through it, Justice League wins as the better 4K disc, and better by quite a large margin. The actual picture I found to be better. I found that the sound was much better. And as for the features, I haven't watched many of the features, but from what I've seen on the back of each one, I'm much more interested in seeing some stuff on Justice League than I am on Thor. But I can give a better review on the features down the road. But as for the films themselves, right now, Justice League beats it, and I wish Justice League was a better film. I wish I could tell you guys that Justice League is the film that DC's been waiting for to really put him back on the map. It doesn't do that. It fails in many ways, but there are some ways that it actually does succeed, and some things that I really, really enjoyed about this one here. But I think they can go farther. They can do better. They just really, really need to look at what they've done, and look at all the strengths of the Justice League film. Look at the weaknesses. They got to get a new effects team underway. After seeing the substandard effects in Justice League, and there was a ton of people names coming up with the effects, and I'm like, did you really want to put your name on this film? Not because of the film, because of the effects. And Steppenwolf as a villain was just a really, really bad mistake. I mean, if they decided, hey, we can't go with Darkseid because we want to save him for maybe a bigger thing later, but we're not going to do the two films. We're not going to do it out as two big films. Then don't do that story. Cut your losses. Go back. Rework. Get a new script. or work with that script, put a better villain in there. Steppenwolf was a placeholder villain for a second film. That's now not going to happen. That was a big mistake, and but at the end of the day, it's the villains in a lot of these movies. They aren't the showcase to a lot of these films. Let's face it, Loki was really great in Avengers, but those Skrull-looking dudes, they were there to help the Avengers look cool. This is more about the formation of the Justice League for me than it is about Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf is like he's an afterthought. He's an aside. You get to see the Justice League come together. You get to see a bit of their personality, and for me, that's what made the film. That's what made it work. Thor, we've already got the Marvel Cinematic Universe going pretty well. They know what they're doing. They got like the beats that work usually well. Now, here's the thing: the Thor films before this, Thor was an okay film. It wasn't a great film. It was actually one of the weakest of the Marvel Cinematic films. Thor 2, The Dark World, The Dark Hour, whatever the heck that one was called, that was not good. And when people like say Marvel's getting it right, they're knocking it out of the park pretty well, they're doing some pretty great films. No, that was a stumbling block for them. So coming back next to making a good Thor film, actually doing it right, and letting us see more of the Hawk. This is probably the closest we're ever going to get to a Planet Hawk movie as well, because they're on that planet. Sakaara, and it's great. And Jeff Goldblum is Jeff Goldblum in this. It's fantastic. So yeah, definitely pick up Thor Ragnarok. It is a great film. I would pick up Justice League too. I liked it. As much as I'm telling you about all the flaws, I want to be honest with you guys. I did like the experience. It was a fun film. The cast overall was really good. It's just much like some of the weaker ones. It had a weak villain. It wasn't like Suicide Squad bad. That was just atrocious. But Justice League just got a lot right. It got more right than it got wrong. But what it got wrong was glaringly obvious. Hope that makes a lot of sense. But as the 4K disc goes, Justice League is a better 4K disc than Thor Ragnarok. It's not even close. It totally knocks it out of the park there a bit more. And I got to go back and watch my original DCEU 4Ks, because this is actually the first DC one that I've watched in 4K. I'll be right back, because we still got to talk about the spoiler part of these Strangers, don't we? Strangers Prey at Night. And I want to get into that. Alright, if you have not seen The Strangers Prey at Night, then this will not be the part that you're going to want to see unless you're not going to see it or you don't mind spoilers. I do recommend to see it. It's a fun film. Really cool throwback to the 280 style slasher like I mentioned before. But here's getting into the spoiler territory right now. So in this film here, unlike in the original film, all three strangers are killed. And pretty definitively, we get the stabbing of the I'm going to call. I'm not sure what they call her, Dollface, Mom. I'm not sure what, but that one there, the shorter, dark-haired one, she gets stabbed and killed earlier on than the other ones. I was really surprised, since she didn't have she had a very effective role in the film, but it wasn't like a larger role. Then we get to see the girl. I think this was who played her, Gemma. I think her name is Gemma. I think the actress who played her. So she gets blown away with a shotgun, and she is definitively taken out. We actually get to see her take off her mask. That's actually pretty cool. And Sackhead was what I'm going to call him. Sackhead, Baghead, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to say Sackhead. We'll go with that. The kind of the leader of the Strangers. This is where it gets really cool. He goes full Jason Voorhees on us. He's in a car. He's in a truck. He's like trying to run her over. His truck gets stuck in this cop car. She whips out a lighter. She hits because there's gas coming out of the truck. The truck kind of catches on. There's a big explosion. The truck catches on fire. So she starts to walk away. The truck on fire, him on fire, comes barreling down towards her, and she's running to get away from the truck. It's a really cool scene, really visually impressive. I really like the way that it was done. That's not the last one either. She actually meets up with a family, because after that she gets him, and it looks like he's gone. But nope, because basically what happens is he gets out of the truck, he comes with his axe, he's gonna finish her off, and he's on fire, and he falls down, bam, looks like he's dead, looks like he's gone. She flags in a car, and it looks like they're going to start to take off without her. And she looks, and there he is coming again. He's out Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, doing the whole coming at her type of thing. She jumps into the back of the car. He like runs and catches onto the car. He's got his axe there. She takes this bat. She whacks him with it, and she finally looks like she's finally killed him. He looks to be finally, like, she gets him really good. He looks to be dead, and that's pretty much it for that. Now, at the end of the film, they're in like her and her brother, the only survivors of the film, are in a hospital, and you kind of hear this kind of strangest type knock on the hospital door, and you don't know if it's kind of in her mind, or because she does have a scene that's almost very reminiscent of either the end of of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the end of Tourist Trap, which is almost got like an hysterical type of sequence right at the end of the film. But there's so many ways they could go. This is, are the strangers really dead? Can somebody else pick up those masks? Were there ever only 3, or was there only 3 that we saw? Are these the same 3 that we saw in the first film? Is there a cult of strangers? Could they go in that direction with it, or did they want to go somewhere more supernatural aspect with it? I would prefer, personally, if I got my hands on this franchise, and I would franchise it by this point, I would go with almost like a kind of a cult aspect of it, kind of a creepy. You don't know who they are, and they could be anybody type of thing. There was a show that came on, lasted for 3 seasons, called The Following, with Kevin Bacon. Now, don't lose me here. Some people are going to really hate this idea, but I'm just spitballing. I'm just trying to throw something out there. There are these faceless people that you don't see. Well, one of them, you get the face of this one, and basically they ask her why she did it, and she basically says, "Why not?" Which I guess is kind of like a play on the "You Were Home" type of thing from the first one. It doesn't play as creepy. Nothing in this one plays as creepy as the original Strange. So don't expect to go into this movie and get this really creepy, eerie film. You're not going to get that. You're going to have a fun time with it. You're going to have because you got to know going in. You're watching this right now. You maybe already seen it, but if you haven't and you're watching this, you don't mind the spoiler part of it. No, go in with this knowing it's going to be a fun movie. There's going to be a lot of 80s slasher references. Look for them along the way. There's some really cool ones, and you'll have a lot of fun with the film. Don't go in expecting it to be like this straightforward, really brutal, kind of nihilistic, bleak sequel to the original Strangers. Strangers did the best job of what they could do with that format and with those characters. They went in a different direction. They could go back in the other direction with the next one, but you don't know. I really enjoyed it. I don't think that's the end of the Strangers franchise. I think there's many different ways that they can bring them back. And I was talking to my oldest recently, and we mentioned the thing that's set at the door every time. Basically, is Tamara home? That was set in the original one as well. We could also see a prequel to of the film to kind of find out what's behind that being said. Maybe there's a whole story behind the Tamara thing that we don't know. That'll be interesting to see as well. There's so many ways they could go. They could go with a prequel for another Strangers film. They could supernaturalize it. They could make it almost like a Strangers type of cult type of thing, where somebody else could take up the masks and use them. There's a few different ways to go with the films, and I had a blast with them either way. But I'll be right back to finish this one off. I'm not going to make this one too long tonight. I know a lot of you guys are probably surprised that I like The Strangers Prey at Night so much, but I did. I really found it a fun film. It was a great film for what it was, and I guess I went in, my expectations were lowered. I didn't go in expecting to see another, basically the classic Strangers sequel that was going to be like the first film. I was actually kind of relieved that they didn't go in that direction. I did think that The Strangers pretty hit it right on the money for what they had to do, and I enjoyed this one. Again, I really was surprised that Justice League 4K went out over Thor Ragnarok, but to be completely honest with you guys, Justice League just had Thor's a better film, Justice League's a better 4K. So work on that a little next time, Marvel, and put some more stuff on your, some interesting stuff on your, in my opinion anyway, on your films. And can these guys just start adding some commentaries and stuff like that as well? I really like commentaries. It's something that I thoroughly enjoy. But there you go, Justice League, bit of a weak movie, enough to entertain. While I like it as much on the second watch, I don't find, except for Wonder Woman, I don't find that I've liked a lot of the DC movies as much on a second watch, to be totally honest with you. I still enjoy them, but the flaws become more noticeable. I can pick them out more. Marvel have orchestrated their films in a way that it's pretty light and it's pretty easy. They make them in such a way that you're going to be able to sit back and watch their film. It's the type of film that you can watch, you can enjoy, or if it's on a channel on your TV, you can put it on in the background and you browse and watch a little bit of it, type of thing. So that's actually is high praise when you can actually get people in like that, because that's what you want. You want to be able to get people to like this. You want to suck people in to get them to come in and watch the film again, to watch it on TV, to want to own it, type of thing. DC, you're getting there with the casting. You've done pretty good with that. You got to get a solid. Snyder was not the guy. Whedon really didn't get a chance to find out if he was the guy. But and I'm not the person that's like, I want to see a hardcore like Zack Snyder cut, because I don't. I didn't mind Man of Steel. I didn't mind Batman vs Superman. But that being said, I knew, like, watching it, I was enjoying the films. I argued with people over the merits of Man of Steel. But still, Zack Snyder's not the guy to be running, be spearheading the DC EU. He's not the guy to do it. But hopefully they'll find the guy is. Is it Jeff Johns? Is he going to take more of a proactive role in it? Is there another guy that they can actually get? Whedon's definitely gone after kind of some of the treatment. He didn't get really to mold Justice League the way he wanted to. He just kind of had to come in and fix up some stuff that he considered to be pretty much already broken. I don't think the Zack Snyder cut would have helped the film. I think, if anything, it may have alienated some more people that were already on the fence about the DC EU, because although his films and his more his darker approach works a bit, it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked overall, and it's been a downhill thing for Zack Snyder. And the effects, the effects, Doomsday was badly done, and Batman vs Superman, it just didn't work well, and this was much worse. Justice League came out, it was a broken film, but all that, all the flaws that I say, I still enjoyed the film. I still really do think it's worth you checking out. Would you have to buy the 4K? If you got a 4K system, it looks nice on 4K. I would. I'd wait till you got it down in price a bit, maybe, but I do think it belongs there. If you got all the other things in 4K, definitely get Justice League in 4K. If you don't have 4K, it's not going to matter to you. Just grab the Blu-ray, or if you just got a DVD player, grab that. But it is worth seeing. It's worth seeing what they did right and what they did wrong, and making up your own mind on how you think that they should and can go from there. The DC universe is still going on. It's just the Justice League. I really want to see a sequel because there is so much potential in this one here, and there's definitely potential in whoever puts their Blu-rays, their 4Ks together, does a much better job than the person that scripted that story for Justice League. That's for sure. Anyway, I am Aaron. I am the movie prof. This is my movie library, which I'm so glad you guys came down to see tonight. This has been Marvel vs. DC, the 4K Wars, and shot one anyway. DC did a great job there. You put it a great 4K, which may have saved your bacon on a film that may not have been the best, but the 4K itself is worth owning. Thank you guys for watching. My throat's going. It's time for tea, and see you again next time in the movie library.